You recently pivoted to only doing funds now, which we've been talking about pros and cons here and there. You apparently concluded that it was the best thing to do, and I'd like to find out why. Tell us first of all what you're doing, and we'll get into why you decided that was a good thing.
So we're doing funds, as you mentioned, and I exclusively purchase apartment communities. That's what we do, and we buy 200 plus unit apartment communities, and we've bought um, to date 38 apartment communities, all value add deals. So we've done this 38 times, and when you do something that amount of times, then you're going to pick up on some efficiencies, some better ways to do what you've been doing. And I can tell you that from the fund perspective, which we just started this past February, so not too long ago, but it's something that we've already been. There's already been such positive feedback and action taken by investors. We're not going to go back. Well, I've learned in this business and in life, never say never about things. So it's highly unlikely we'll ever go back to doing individual deals.
Right. Okay. So you're doing funds. What do these funds look like? Kind of how are you setting them up? And then I want to get into the reasons of why you thought that was a good idea. But talk about what the structure is and kind of how you're doing things.
Yeah. The structure is how we were similar to how we were doing individual deals. It's 7%. There's two classes: Class A, Class B. Class A 10% pref, Class B 7% pref, Class A virtually no upside, Class B has upside. 70/30 is the split. Once you get a 13% IRR, then it's 50/50 thereafter. So it's similar to how we were doing the individual deals, but from a limited partner standpoint, it makes more sense. It's more beneficial, in my opinion. And then from a general partner standpoint, it makes more sense, in my opinion. And I can get into some specifics if you want
Yeah.
on why. Okay.
Yeah. On why? Because there's pros and of course there's cons. It's not like it's a no brainer. So I'd
There's
like to
always
hear.
pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. With anything we do in life, there's pros and cons. I hear you. So let's talk about the cons. Um, so the con from a LP standpoint is that you are investing in multiple deals when you invest in a fund. Therefore, if one deal does incredibly well, you're going to get the average of all the deals. So you missed out on catching lightning in a bottle, unfortunately, most likely, because probably if say there's 7 deals in the fund, probably 7 deals aren't going to hit grand slams. So you're going to end up with the average of those 7 deals. So, if you're looking to swing big, swing for the fences as a LP, fund's not the way to go, in my opinion, because it's going to average out and bring down bring the others are going to bring down the lightning in the bottle one. So that's the downside. And then the downside from a general partner, there are some investors who don't like investing in a fund for perhaps the reason I just mentioned. Therefore, you can lose out on some investors as a result of having a fund.
What
You can
about
think
what about
of,
another Con, Joe? What do you think
yeah,
about that? This, I think one of the con is that you're always raising capital, right? So when you look at a campaign, you do a webinar, and for a period of 7, 10 days, it's like hot and heavy, and you're getting to closing, and it's a stressful situation. And you do this once a quarter, and you're like, oh man, I can barely swing that. But doing this all the time, raising money all the time, is that a con in your mind, or is that actually a major pro?
that's definitely a pro, because if you're if you're doing individual deals, you're likely not going to stop at that single deal. You're likely, if you buy a deal, you're likely going to buy another deal. And if you're going to be buying another deal, you might as well just not have to start and stop. I mean, I liken raising money for individual deals, and as you described, trying to hit that dollar amount that you need to hit for that raise, but not go over that dollar amount, but not go under that dollar amount, like trying to land a helicopter on top of a mountain on a windy day. It's like you have to get a very small window of equity exactly right. And as you know, and everyone who's raising money for individual deals knows that, well, guess what? When you're trying to close, you're going to have some investors who are AWOL. They committed, but you don't know where they went. There's a handful of them. I don't know what happened to them. Jim Rome would say the birds got them. It just, who knows? But then you've got some investors who want in, but you don't know if you can bring them in because you have those investors who went AWOL. You're trying to get in touch with them. And then you're trying to hit an exact equity amount. Some have funded, some haven't. Following up with investors. I mean, it's just challenging. It's an administrative burden at the finish line. So that's removed by and large, except for at the very end of the fund, whenever you're trying to close it out. But you don't have to do it for every individual deal.
So another con could be, my gosh, maybe it's more expensive than a regular syndication.
Yes. At the beginning to set it up. But once you set it up, you don't have the recurring legal fees to set up individual deals. So I would think, although I can't confirm this because I'm not working on this with our attorneys, a team member of mine is. So I don't have enough information to confirm this, but I would suspect that when you set up the fund once, from a legal standpoint, we actually have efficiencies over the period of time because we're doing 5 to 7 deals versus setting it up every single time, starting and stopping. My guess is that is at minimum a wash. But on the front end, yes, it's going to cost more.
All right, so there's a lot of pros there. We talked about, if you have consistent deal flow, you're spreading out the capital raising over time. That's cool. The other advantage is that you can bring investors on whenever they're ready to invest, right? So, what we're doing now is we get a call. We don't have a deal right now. We say, hey, we'll call you when there's a deal. Meanwhile, they go like, well, what is this? I'm going to invest somewhere else, and they invest with someone else, and so we lose that investor. So there's certainly any other pros that you guys that you think is good with a fund.
Oh yeah, from an LP standpoint, well. You can there's a chance you can have better returns because the GP can commingle money. And here's the scenario where the LP could have better returns because the GP can commingle funds. Right now, if you are doing individual deals, it's illegal to commingle money. So you don't commingle money, right? From one deal to another. But with a fund, you can. And so here's how that plays out as an advantage to the LP and the GPs. Deal 1 needs $7 million worth of CapEx. You raise the $7 million. Deal 3 in the fund needs $7 million in CapEx. But you don't raise that $7 million because deal 1, you're doing well. You bought in bulk from somewhere, all the appliances, you saved a lot of money, and your team's coming under on the renovation budget by $2 million. So you really only use $5 million of the $7 million in the deal. So you've saved $2 million on deal 1. Well, in individual deals, that's great. But in a fund, that's even better because now you're bringing in less capital for the deals because you can then bring those cost savings and you don't raise that extra $2 million.
Actually, that's a huge benefit, Joe, because we see this a lot across the portfolio. Some, we raise whatever CapEx we raise, and then we don't use like $1 million of it because for some reason we don't need to. Well, if we get into rents, we were going to do this and move the building to the right by 1 foot. Don't have to do that. Meanwhile, so we got money sitting there. What do we do with this money? Do we return it back to the investors? And then meanwhile, some are like, they need more capital. And you don't want to do a capital call, of course. That's a no-no.
Yep.
So therefore, you're not actually achieving your pro forma because you're just slightly undercapitalized. Therefore, if you can now move those funds around, it's easier for you and it's better for the investor as well. I think the other thing also, this is what irritates me a little bit about this portfolio approach. Like you said, there are some home runs in the portfolio and then some are like not really going to plan, right? And you're like, from an investor, you're like, man, I really want consistency, right? Because the investor wants to plan for the future. They want to know, if I put money in this thing, I want a 15% whatever average annual return. I want it over the next 5 to 10 years. And if I know I can get that, I can plan reliably. And I want cash flow as well. And sometimes we completely over deliver. Sometimes we under deliver. And really what we want is we want to deliver consistency. And I think that's a huge advantage of a fund. Now, have you found that it's harder? I think you mentioned earlier that, some investors, you said from a G perspective, some investors, you would lose some who don't want to invest in a fund. Have you found it's harder to raise for a fund? So if you compare your capital raising trends, it's not. It's easier. So that's a bit of a myth then, and I include myself in that, because I've heard it's hard to raise for a fund because investors really want to be able to drive to their property, which of course they don't do. They want to know that they own a piece of a particular property. Why do you say it's easier?
Results. I mean, we've raised more money in the time period in which we've had the fund than we would have if we had individual deals. Your example earlier is spot on, where since we're constantly raising money because the fund's open, when someone becomes interested, we've always got an opportunity for them, and it's a 506C deal. So we can bring them in once they qualify as an accredited investor immediately. We don't have to have a pre-existing relationship. So they can come in immediately versus starting and stopping, waiting, starting and stopping. It's a constant flow of equity coming in.
Then the question is, for who is this for? And at what point should one do it? Because I'm looking around in our world, and I only see very, very accomplished syndicators raising tens of millions of dollars on a routine basis going to funds. Now, there may be a reason for that, but the other one could be simple ignorance. Like, funds are expensive, funds are hard, it's going to be harder for me, therefore I'm not going to do it until I'm raising $100 million a year. I mean, what do you think? Now that you're in the fund, I mean, who is this for?
I would say have a couple exits under your belt. So take a couple deals full cycle. If you've taken a couple deals full cycle, then my assumption is that you have also acquired, I'm going to arbitrarily pick this number, but at least five deals. So you've at least acquired 5 deals and you've taken at least 2 full cycle. You're beginning to establish a pattern. I mean, your pattern has started, and you have an investor base. So once you get to that level, I'd say it's go time for a fund. And, I probably should say this isn't securities advice, isn't legal advice. So I don't know if a fund's right for you, whoever we're speaking with. So talk to your attorney. But it makes, there's a lot of business reasons from an LP and GP standpoint that it makes sense.